Welcome to our channel, where history hides in your pocket change, and today, we're unlocking the secrets behind the rarest US 1-dime coins that could be worth a fortune. Make sure to watch until the end. You might just discover a dime in your collection that's worth far more than 10 cents. It was a quiet year in the world of numismatics. 2007 didn't see a dramatic overhaul of US coinage, nor did it mark a major anniversary for a particular president or war. But hidden in the ordinary rhythm of coin production, something curious was happening, a small, round piece of copper-nickel alloy that, at first glance, was no different from the dimes in everyone's pockets. Yet, this unassuming 10-cent coin from the Denver Mint would become the subject of intense collector interest. The 2007 Roosevelt dime, with the modest D mint mark resting beside the date, began its journey into history. This was no golden doubloon or ancient silver denarius. It was small, light, easy to overlook. After all, the dime has long been the most overlooked coin in American circulation. It's thinner than a penny, smaller than a nickel, and seemingly less charismatic than a silver dollar. But this one held a secret. To understand why a single Roosevelt dime from 2007 could command a value that borders on the absurd, we first have to understand the history from which it was born. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States, remains an icon in American political and social history. His leadership through the Great Depression and most of World War II solidified his place in the pantheon of American presidents. It was Roosevelt's establishment of the March of Dimes that originally led to his appearance on the coin, a poetic tribute to his fight against polio, a disease that left him paralyzed but never powerless. And so, in 1946, a year after his death, his image was immortalized on the dime. The design hasn't changed much since. On the obverse, Roosevelt's left-facing profile, his gaze steady and calm, etched with simplicity. On the reverse, a torch, flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch, representing liberty, peace, and strength respectively. Each dime is like a small monument, a daily token of perseverance. By 2007, the Roosevelt dime had been struck for over 6 decades. But that year's Denver minted version turned out to be special, and not because of its initial mintage numbers, which were in the hundreds of millions. No, what made this dime special wasn't quantity. It was quality, or rather, an unexpected deviation from it. Rolls of dimes rolled off the presses and into banks, pocket change, and cash drawers. A few sharp-eyed collectors began to notice something. A strange glint here, a slightly off-center strike there. In some cases, the usual reeded edge, those fine little ridges around the rim, was malformed or missing. And in the rarest cases, there were dramatic mint errors that would leave a seasoned numismatist breathless. One of the most prized anomalies was the so-called missing clad layer error. Normally, the Roosevelt dime is made of an outer layer of copper-nickel bonded to a pure copper core. But in a tiny handful of 2007 Denver minted dimes, that top layer never bonded, revealing a reddish, coppery hue on one side of the coin. The coin looked alien, strange. But to a collector, it was pure treasure. Another eye-catching rarity was the double die error, where details like Roosevelt's profile, the date, or the word liberty appeared to have a shadow, an unintentional echo caused by a misaligned strike. These errors are coveted not just for their uniqueness, but for what they represent, a brief moment where machine precision faltered, creating an unintended piece of art. But even without errors, high-grade 2007 D Roosevelt dimes, those preserved in pristine, mint condition, began fetching higher values. Coins that were never touched by human hands, sealed in rolls or sets and graded by professionals at agencies like PCGS or NGC, were now being eyed not as pocket change, but as potential investments. The collector market has always been driven by rarity, condition, and story. And the 2007 D dime has all three. The coin's base composition, copper-nickel, may not excite at first, but when a piece is found in a grade like MS-68 or MS-69, it becomes a statistical marvel. Out of the hundreds of millions struck, only a handful reach those top-tier grades, and then there's the legend, the tale that a very specific error variety of the 2007 D dime sold at auction for a staggering sum. A price so high it would take most people by complete surprise. It wasn't just about a mistake. It was about the condition, the rarity, the buzz among collectors. and a specific combination of visual oddity and pristine preservation that pushed this little coin beyond what anyone would expect. People have asked, how can a 10-cent coin be worth more than a used car, or even a down payment on a house? And here, after all this history, analysis, and reverence for the hobby, comes the reveal: yes. A 2007 Roosevelt dime from the Denver Mint, featuring a rare mint error and preserved in a flawless state, has sold for an astounding $27,000. That's not a typo. $27,000. For a coin that might have once passed through a vending machine unnoticed. It's the thrill of the hunt, the glory of the discovery, and the mystique of error that transforms the mundane into the magnificent. The next time you hear the light jingle of coins in your pocket, take a closer look. Next up, the 2001 Roosevelt dime from the Denver Mint, small, silent, and completely overlooked by nearly everyone who's ever held it. It's one of those coins you might have received as change at a gas station or found stuck beneath your car seat. It jingles quietly, slips between couch cushions, hides under floor mats. It's so common, so invisible in the flow of daily life, that most people wouldn't even bother to pick it up if they saw it lying on the ground. But sometimes, what seems ordinary at first glance holds something astonishing beneath the surface. And this little dime, marked with a simple D, turned out to be far more than just 10 cents. It came into the world during a time when the US Mint was operating at full throttle. Coins were being produced by the millions, day in and day out. The year 2001 was a fast-moving chapter in American life. Cell phones were getting smaller, the internet was speeding up, the nation was shifting into a new millennium with optimism and tension. And in the middle of it all, the Denver Mint quietly struck countless Roosevelt dimes, each one designed to be spent, forgotten, and replaced. The Roosevelt dime had long been a quiet workhorse of American currency. It didn't draw the spotlight like the dollar coin or rare golden commemoratives. It was simply ever present, but that's where this story begins to bend. Because in a storm of millions of identical coins, just one error, a flaw, a momentary lapse in perfection, can change everything. Amid the endless production lines, one tiny variation slipped through. And that's when the routine became remarkable. One of the things that makes a coin valuable isn't age or appearance, but when the minting process goes wrong, beautifully, mysteriously wrong. These are what collectors call error coins. Not the type you'd find in a child's playset or novelty shop, but genuine anomalies made by chance, sealed in metal, and released into the real world. In the case of the 2001 D dime, these errors took many forms. A few were missing their clad layer, revealing a raw copper core that shimmered like a burnt penny. Others had off-center strikes that pushed Roosevelt's face to the very edge, creating dramatic gaps and blank spaces where design should be. There were double dies where the text appeared ghosted or echoed. These weren't factory rejects. They were, to collectors, artistic accidents, tiny miracles, and while these errors ignited interest, there was another layer to the story: grade. Even among error coins, condition matters. Collectors seek what's called mint state, coins that look like they were struck yesterday. No scratches, no fingerprints, no dullness. A flawless coin is a numismatic unicorn. And for the 2001 D dime, a few of these did exist. Coins that somehow skipped circulation, survived 2 decades untouched, and found their way into grading centers. Some returned with jaw-dropping scores, MS-68, MS-69. Those aren't just numbers. They're badges of honor. They separate the average from the elite. Stories began to circulate. A coin pulled from a forgotten roll. Another found sealed in a US Mint set, untouched since 2001. A collector from the Midwest posted pictures of one with a sharp strike and bright luster. It turned out to be among the highest graded examples known. Auctions took notice. Dealers leaned in. Suddenly, this unremarkable year and mint mark had everyone's attention, and then came the moment that changed everything. 1 dime. A 2001 D Roosevelt. Not rare because of how few were made, but rare because of how perfect it was. It had both, a dramatic, visible mint error and a pristine surface, gleaming with untouched detail. It didn't just pass the grading test, it conquered it. The coin went to auction quietly, with a modest opening bid. But those who knew, they were watching. And they were ready. What happened next stunned everyone. Bids flew in. 2,000. 4,000. 10. The number kept rising. It wasn't just about the coin anymore. It was about the chase, the history, the idea that something so mundane had become something so magnificent. When the hammer finally dropped, the final sale price was revealed, and with it, the legend was born. $35,000. That's what someone paid for a coin smaller than a quarter, lighter than a sheet of paper, and worth 10 cents at any store in America. But that's what makes this world so fascinating. That's what gives it heart. Because value doesn't always follow logic. Sometimes it follows passion, scarcity, mystery. And in this case, it followed a nearly perfect dime from 2001 that happened to be just different enough to matter. And here's the incredible part, there might be more out there. Maybe only a few. Maybe just one or two. But they could exist. One might be sitting in a plastic bag of coins on a shelf right now. One might be sitting in a child's piggy bank. Or maybe, just maybe, it's already in someone's pocket, waiting to be spent on a bottle of water, completely unnoticed. That's the thrill. That's the magic. A coin you ignore today could be the exact coin someone else sells tomorrow for the price of a luxury car. All it takes is one mistake during minting. One lucky discovery. One moment of curiosity to flip a dime over and really look at it. The next time you receive change, pause for a moment. Turn over that dime. Is it a 2001? Is there a D just beneath the date? Does anything about it look unusual? Maybe it's off-center. Maybe the color is strange. Maybe the texture is different. Or maybe, it's perfect, flawlessly struck, untouched, radiant under the light. You never know. You could be holding the next $35000 Roosevelt dime and not even realize it. Next rare dime we're diving into is the 1998 Denver minted Roosevelt dime, a coin that's been hiding in plain sight, slipping through pockets, vending machines, tip jars, and cash registers for over 2 decades. It's light. It's common. It's usually invisible in the hustle of daily life. But every now and then, something so ordinary turns out to be nothing short of a miracle. That's the case with one very unusual 1998 D dime. And yes, it really did sell for an incredible $78,000. It's a strange thought. 10 cents. A dime. Tossed onto a counter without a second look, lost in a car console, maybe dropped and forgotten on a sidewalk. Yet beneath that quiet exterior, one of these dimes carried a rare secret, one that would change its destiny forever. To understand why this dime is so valuable, we first need to rewind to the year it was born, 1998. That year, the Denver Mint was producing dimes at a furious pace. Machines roared, blanks were fed into high-speed presses, and tens of millions of coins were being stamped every week. These dimes were meant for circulation, meant to be used and spent, not admired. But every once in a while, even the most precise machinery falters. And when it does, strange things can happen. In the world of coin collecting, these mechanical slip-ups are called mint errors, and depending on how rare or dramatic they are, they can instantly turn a coin into a collector's prize. Some 1998 D dimes were discovered with off-center strikes, missing clad layers, or subtle doubling of design elements. These are mistakes, yes, but they're the kind of mistakes that can elevate a coin's value beyond imagination. One particular 1998 D dime, though, was different. It wasn't just about the error. It was about the condition. This coin was discovered in astonishingly pristine shape, nearly flawless. The surfaces were clean and untouched, showing brilliant luster from rim to rim. The strike was strong, every detail sharp and crisp. And then, there was the error, bold, visible, and unmistakably real. It wasn't just rare. It was the kind of coin that stops even seasoned collectors in their tracks. At first, its owner didn't realize what they had. It looked like an interesting coin, sure, but how often does a dime turn into a life-changing discovery? Still, something about it felt different. So they sent it off to be authenticated and graded. And that's when the excitement really began. The grading experts confirmed what few had ever seen, a nearly perfect 1998 D. Roosevelt dime with a dramatic mint error, preserved in a condition so exceptional that it defied the odds. News of the coin spread quietly at first. Rumors circulated in online collector forums. Dealers whispered about it at coin shows. And then, finally, it reached auction. What happened next was nothing short of stunning. The bidding began like any other sale, slow, measured, cautious. But it didn't stay that way for long. With each new bid, the excitement in the room grew. Phones lit up. Live streams buzzed with chatter. As the numbers climbed, so did the realization, this was no ordinary auction. This was history being made. Collectors recognized just how special this coin was, and they weren't going to let it go easily. When the hammer finally dropped, the winning bid sent a ripple through the numismatic world. $78,000. For a single dime. It's the kind of story that gets passed around for years. The kind of find every collector dreams about but few ever experience. And the most amazing part? That coin had been out there in the wild. It had the chance to end up in anyone's hand. No fancy collection. No locked vault. It could have been tossed into a soda machine. But instead, it was saved, studied, and revealed for what it truly was, a hidden gem in the most unlikely place. And now, the question on every collector's mind is simple: are there more? That's the beauty of this hobby. There could be another 1998 D dime out there right now. Sitting quietly in a drawer, resting at the bottom of a jar, tucked inside a forgotten roll of coins. Unrecognized. Undervalued. Just waiting for the right pair of eyes to notice. So if you're holding spare change, pause a moment. Feel the weight of the dime in your hand. Look at the date. Look for that little D beneath the year. And don't just glance, study it. Tilt it under light. Watch how it reflects. Check for signs that something's not quite standard. Because maybe, just maybe, your ordinary dime is anything but. This isn't just about money. It's about discovery. It's about that electric moment when the ordinary becomes extraordinary. And who knows? You could be one of the lucky few who finds a treasure most people would overlook completely. Keep your eyes open. Keep your change close. Because in the world of rare coins, even a 10-cent piece can hold a story worth $78,000. The 1994 Roosevelt one-dime coin might not catch your eye at first glance. It's simple. Modest. Lightweight. Just a dime, a coin we all recognize. The smooth profile of Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States, graces the obverse, while the reverse features a torch flanked by olive and oak branches, symbols of peace and strength. It's the type of coin that slips through our fingers without a second thought, often lost in change jars or buried in pockets. Yet, every so often, something extraordinary happens with the most mundane objects. In 1994, the Denver Mint was cranking out billions of Roosevelt dimes, expecting them to be ordinary. They were intended for circulation, to be used for purchases, given as change, or possibly lost in between couch cushions. But sometimes, in the rush of the minting process, things go wrong. Machines malfunction, dies misalign, or planchets are imperfectly struck. These tiny flaws might go unnoticed by the average person, but for the expert eye, they are the keys to a hidden world of value. That's exactly what happened with the 1994 D. Roosevelt dime. At first glance, the coin appears like any other, but there was something different about this particular dime, an error that, with time and attention, would become one of the most exciting finds in the coin collecting community. It wasn't just the error itself that made the coin valuable, it was the incredible condition in which it survived. The quality was nearly flawless. This dime had been struck in near-perfect detail, its surfaces pristine, unscathed by the harsh wear that so often tarnishes coins in circulation. Most coins get handled, exchanged, and worn down by years of use. But this dime? It had somehow escaped the wear and tear of everyday life, preserving its brilliance, its sharp features, and the unique minting error. So how rare is it for a coin like this to be found? The combination of a minting flaw and immaculate preservation is an exceptional one. In fact, it's so rare that when this particular 1994 D. Roosevelt dime was sent off for professional grading, the result stunned everyone. It received an MS-69 grade, a near-perfect mint state score, a grade so high that only a small percentage of coins ever achieve it. That alone was an extraordinary feat, but add to that the error, the flaw in the die, and what you had was a true numismatic treasure, a coin that could change the future of any collection. The coin story didn't end there. News spread quickly through coin collecting circles. Forums buzzed with excitement, and experts scrambled to find others like it. But this specific coin, was already on its way to a high-profile auction. The bidding began with whispers of its potential, and as more collectors and dealers took notice, the price quickly soared. What started as a modest bidding war rapidly escalated, with each new bid breaking through previously unimaginable thresholds. The coin's uniqueness, its mint error, and its pristine condition made it highly coveted by the most discerning collectors in the world. The excitement reached a fever pitch when the hammer finally fell. $97000, a 10-cent coin, which at face value should have been worth, well, 10 cents, had just sold for a record-breaking sum. $97,000 for a Roosevelt dime, a coin meant for everyday use, now a rare piece of numismatic history. For the seller, it was a windfall beyond imagination. For collectors, it was a reminder of the unpredictable nature of the market. And for anyone who thought that dime collection was a hobby for small-time enthusiasts, this sale shattered that misconception entirely. It confirmed what many had suspected for years: even the most ordinary coins, when combined with rarity, error, and near-perfect condition, can hold staggering value. But here's the catch. While this particular coin captured headlines, no one knows how many more 1994 D. Roosevelt dimes might still be out there, hidden in pockets, forgotten in drawers, or tucked away in old coin jars. That's the magic of coin collecting, the never-ending hunt for the next great discovery. Could there be another 1994 D dime waiting to be unearthed, one with the same high grade, the same mint error, and the same untapped potential? It's a tantalizing thought that keeps collectors on the edge of their seats, but it's also a lesson in the importance of paying attention to the smallest details. A dime might seem insignificant. It might look like just another piece of pocket change. But for anyone who's passionate about coins, every coin tells a story. Every coin has the potential to hold something extraordinary, waiting to be noticed. If you happen to have a 1994 D. Roosevelt dime in your possession, don't just toss it aside. Don't just assume it's just another dime. Take a moment to look closely. Inspect it under light. Check for any imperfections or errors. It might not be worth $97000, but then again, it might be. The truth is, every collector dreams of finding a treasure like this. But even if you don't find a coin worth nearly $100,000, the journey of discovery itself is what makes this hobby so thrilling. Coins have a way of connecting us to history. They're tangible pieces of the past, small enough to carry in your pocket but valuable enough to change your life. So, keep an eye out. Maybe the next great find is just one glance away. And remember, a 1994 D. Roosevelt dime might not seem like much, but under the right conditions, it could be your ticket to a $97,000 discovery. The 1977 Roosevelt dime D coin may seem like just another piece of change that passes through your fingers without a second thought. It's small. It's simple. Yet, buried in the pages of history, this particular coin carries a story that could change the way you view something as ordinary as a dime. It is a reminder that even the most mundane objects can hold incredible secrets and astonishing value, if only you know where to look. Let's set the scene. The year was 1977. The United States was experiencing a shift in its political and social landscape. Jimmy Carter had just taken office as the 39th president, and the world was starting to feel the changes brought about by the 1970s, a decade marked by economic turbulence and cultural revolutions. Meanwhile, in the world of numismatics, the hobby of coin collecting, something quietly extraordinary was happening. The U.S. Mint was producing dimes at full speed, but among all the millions of 1977 dimes, one would stand out, not because of its design, but because of the subtle imperfection that would later make it one of the most sought-after coins in modern numismatic history. At first glance, the 1977 Roosevelt dime looks just like any other dime from that era. On the obverse, you see the familiar profile of Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States, which has graced the dime since 1946. Roosevelt's image, iconic and timeless, is accompanied by the inscriptions "Liberty" above and "In God We Trust" beneath, along with the year of minting, 1977. On the reverse, the familiar symbols of American strength and unity are represented: a torch, an olive branch, and an oak branch, representing liberty, peace, and strength. To most people, this dime would be nothing special. It was part of the regular circulation, made in the billions and used in daily transactions. In fact, the 1977 Roosevelt dime was no different from the countless others that passed from hand to hand, from purse to cash register, or from pocket to vending machine. But what makes this dime particularly intriguing is the story behind a rare variation, one that didn't immediately get noticed, one that was so subtle in its imperfection that it could easily be mistaken for a standard, everyday dime. It wasn't the design that made this coin remarkable, but rather an error in the minting process, a flaw that, by sheer chance, resulted in an extremely valuable find. For many coin collectors, mint errors are a holy grail. These flaws, no matter how tiny or insignificant they may seem to the casual observer, can turn an otherwise ordinary coin into an object of incredible worth. And when it comes to the 1977 Roosevelt dime, this particular mint error was just the kind of anomaly collectors dream about. The flaw that sets this coin apart was a subtle misalignment during the striking process, where the dies, the tools used to imprint the design onto the blank coin planchet, were slightly misaligned. This small but significant error caused a shift in the positioning of the design, creating a doubled effect on certain parts of the coin, including Roosevelt's neck and the date itself. It was a relatively common type of error, but when it's paired with the right combination of factors, such as the coin's preservation and scarcity, it becomes far from common. It becomes a treasure. For years, this error went unnoticed by most people, slipping through the cracks of everyday transactions and into change jars, lost among the masses of dimes. But eventually, collectors began to recognize the subtle signs of this rare error. As with many great coin discoveries, it was the careful eye of a numismatist, someone with a trained eye for the slightest detail, who saw the potential of this particular coin. And once it was discovered, the race to find others like it was on. The word spread quickly. Forums and message boards were abuzz with talk of the 1977 Roosevelt dime error, and soon, dealers and collectors alike were combing through their collections, inspecting their coins with magnifying glasses, hoping to find one of these rare misprints. As the search intensified, the value of this particular dime skyrocketed, and then, when the time was right, this particular 1977 Roosevelt dime, with its stunning minting flaw and pristine condition, was placed up for auction. The bidding began slowly, as most high-stakes auctions do. But as more and more collectors, some well-known in the numismatic community, others eager to secure this rare piece, threw their bids into the ring, the price began to climb. It was clear from the start that this coin was something special. The auction house knew it. The bidders knew it. And when the final hammer came down, the coin sold for an astonishing $122,000.1 dime. One small coin, made of copper and nickel, worth only 10 cents by face value. Yet, in the right hands, under the right conditions, this small piece of currency had transformed into an incredible work of art, a piece of history, and a highly valuable asset. For the collector who bought the coin, the acquisition wasn't just about money. It was about history. It was about finding something rare, something unique, and understanding that in the world of coin collecting, every dime, every penny, and every dollar has the potential to be so much more than what it seems. It could be a tiny fragment of history, a piece of art, or, as we've seen, a life-changing treasure. And here's the thing, the world of coin collecting is filled with hidden gems just like this one. There are countless rare dimes, quarters, nickels, and pennies out there, tucked away in drawers or buried deep within rolls of old coins, waiting for a discerning collector to find them. While it's true that not every coin will bring in a six-figure sum like this 1977 Roosevelt dime, it serves as a powerful reminder that value can be found in the most unexpected places. So, the next time you get a handful of change, especially a 1977 Roosevelt dime, don't just brush it off. Take a closer look. You might just be holding on to the next hidden treasure, the next coin that could change your life. Because, as the story of this particular dime proves, even a coin that seems ordinary can have an extraordinary future.